All right, good evening, everybody. As everyone knows, this morning I did a video on this topic about the whole situation with Canelo Alvarez and Caleb-Plant and how these negotiations seem to be breaking down. And it seems, in the 11th hour, there's a couple new stipulations that have been brought up by Team Canelo to Team Plant. And one of them seems to stand out here, and it's the situation about there's a stipulation that if Plant gets hurt, Team Alvarez is saying that PBC has to provide a replacement opponent and guarantee him that same $40 million that he would be getting to fight Caleb-Plant. Now, a lot of people are just saying Plant doesn't want this fight. And I was skeptical, too, about Plant wanting this fight early on. But this is out of Plant's hands. This is in PBC and Fox's hands now, because for whatever reason, say Plant gets COVID, right? And he has to have the fight pushed back, just like Fury and Wilder too is being pushed back, right? So instead of Canelo waiting for a rescheduled date, he is hell-bent on fighting in September, and he wants PBC to provide him with a replacement opponent. Now, what if Fox does not approve that replacement opponent, right? And they say, no, we're not going to put this on Fox pay-per-view. We don't think that this is worthy of a pay-per-view event. We're not going to back this. We're not going to put this on our airwaves and charge people pay-per-view money for this. So this isn't really about Plant, in my opinion. This is about Team Alvarez dictating to PBC, who's in charge of promoting this event. I'm sure Tom Brown will be the head promoter, but PBC is in charge of the event, obviously, and Fox is going to be the distributor. They're going to be the network and the platform that's going to be broadcasting and televising this event. So even though Canelo is the A side over Plant, PBC and Fox are running the show here. He's conceded that, and they're giving him a $40 million guarantee. That's more than he's ever gotten before for a guarantee. And plus, he's going to be getting back-end money on the pay-per-view side. This is going to not only be Plant's biggest payday of his career, but this seems to me that it's going to be Canelo's biggest payday. Now, how much power do you give a guy? Like, can a guy dictate to the lead promoter, and can he dictate to the network who's in charge of broadcasting the pay-per-view? Can he tell them that they have to guarantee him $40 million regardless of who he fights? Because this is the same problem and situation he had with DAZN. DAZN had that 11-fight deal, $365 million, right? Still not $40 million guarantee, right? When you do the math on that. That's supposed to be the largest contract in boxing history. But because DAZN was under the impression that they wanted to be able to choose the opponents and have, the right to refuse opponents if they didn't think that they were marquee opponents, then, Canelo had a problem with that. So that deal was dissolved because of that. So now it seems as though he's trying to do the same thing here in this situation. Give me the money regardless of who I fight. So I'm not with that. I'm with everything else. You want to add the rematch clause in there, whatever, that's cool. Obviously, you're gonna be able to dictate terms, whatever. But to sit there and tell somebody who's putting up the money how they're supposed to spend their money, they're already telling you they're going to give you $40 million for this guy. But now you're telling them to give them $40 million if for whatever reason something happens to Plant, right? Who else would be available? David Benavidez is fighting in August, right? Who else is out there? Who else could be a replacement? We're going to put Anthony Durrell in there? David Morrell in there? Who are you going to put in there? Just like who could you put in as a replacement to warrant it being on Fox pay-per-view? Fox is going to accept it to be on pay-per-view. That's number one. And why would you want to pay $40 million and just say I'm going to give you the $40 million guarantee regardless of who it is? Like, that does not make – I've never heard of a situation that has ever been put in a contract. I brought you on, Maestro, because I want to hear another point of view. I want to hear the opposing side to this, to my argument. Go ahead, bro.
Absolutely. So, Joe, first of all, I want to commend you for being one of the first to speak about this. You're the first video I saw this morning on this topic. I missed the boxing voice this morning. I wasn't able to tune into that or participate due to some issues I'm dealing with here in New York City. But as always, you know, you looked at what was out there, you examined it, and you laid out some very good arguments. And it's not that I'm going to disagree with what you just said. I'm just going to provide a different perspective. And the perspective I'm going to provide is the perspective of an elite athlete, of arguably the biggest name in boxing. I think it's really just between two guys, Canelo and Joshua. These are two elite guys. They're obviously A sides. Canelo is an A side against anybody he faces off with. And in this case, I think we're talking about a guy who's not even a B side, to be quite frank with you. If Canelo is first division La Liga football, Canelo-Plant is like the third division. If Canelo is Major League Baseball, Canelo-Plant is maybe single A baseball. I said this earlier, and I wasn't trying to be hyperbolic here, but I'm honestly not convinced that Canelo-Plant is a better fighter than Rocky Fielding. You know, I'm not going to be convinced of that until I see him beat somebody of note. You're talking about a guy who won his title against Ustakegi and who defended it against Mike Lee, Figin Bunce, and Caleb Truax. So here's the Canelo perspective. You're fighting on DAZN. You know that Canelo gets the date around Mexican Independence Day weekend or Independence Day, right? Typically on or around the 6th, 15th is when that big fight weekend will take place when Canelo fights. He can fight a Bivol. He can fight not a Benavidez, but let's say a Baturviev. He can fight pretty much anyone with a certain measure of respect in the game of boxing who's not associated with PBC. And I'm not saying he's going to make 40. I'm not saying he's going to make 35. I'm not even going to say he's going to make 30. But I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that he'd make somewhere in the minimum of 20 to 25 million for that fight, right? But Canelo-Plant and the PBC do not want that fight with Canelo-Plant taking place on DAZN, which is who Canelo is tied to and who Canelo, his assurances that he's going to get a fight. And if you don't believe me that he would get a fight, Canelo was set to fight Billy Joe Saunders. And when there were murmurings of Billy Joe acting like a diva around demanding a 24-foot by 24-foot ring, they had opponents lined up for him to fight. The main one being John Ryder, who they flew in as a replacement. Canelo was going to get paid to fight somebody on that day. DAZN was going to give him money to fight on that day. So what's essentially happened here is, in order to get him off of DAZN, the PBC has needed to offer more money to Canelo than he would otherwise make on DAZN, right? So what Canelo is saying is, if you're going to do that, I want assurances that if this guy gets injured or if this guy gets COVID, that I'm going to get paid. Because that's what they do for me at DAZN. I'm an A-list athlete, A++ list athlete, right? I did this earlier for dramatic effect, but I'm going to show you guys this right now again. That's what I look across when I look out at my dad. That's Yankee Stadium, right? Multiple Yankee games have been canceled since the pandemic, right? Every one of those Yankees, including the guys at the end of the bench, guys in the bullpen that don't even get to pitch, get guaranteed money. If Canelo's the biggest fighter in the sport of boxing, why does he get less than the guy at the end of the bench on an NBA roster or at the end of the bench on an MLB team? I mean, if he's going across the street, shouldn't he get some form of minimum guarantee? Like, and here's the thing. Well, you say, oh, I'm doing your voice. I'm doing the the voice of what I call the mama huevos out there on YouTube. Oh, well, Maestro, yeah, but if he goes to that 40 million, that's too much. That's too much money. Canelo can't get that for just fighting anybody. So, okay, so the mama huevo's going to say, well, you know, he doesn't deserve 40 million for fighting, I don't know, David Morrell Jr. Okay, but if you're Canelo and you're a businessman, are you going to say, well, I want the minimum to be 15 and start the negotiation there? Or are you going to say, I want the minimum to be 40 and start, or the guarantee to be 40? You're going to start with 40, right? I don't think that Canelo expects to get 40 for fighting the backup, but when you're starting negotiation, you got to start somewhere. And if you're Canelo, you're going to start with the biggest number you could think of. And his team probably knows that that's going to get chipped away until maybe it's, I don't know, 15 million or 20 million for fighting David Morrell Jr. But if you are Canelo and you view yourself, which you got to believe that he does, guys in the chat, as the biggest name in boxing, then you want guaranteed money for taking your services across the street. Because otherwise what could happen is he doesn't have guaranteed money. He loses the DAZN date in September because Plant sweet hands get injured or Plant catches COVID like our famous heavyweight did, right? And that shit hits the fan and he's got no money and he's lost his September date. So I think that's the Canelo side of the equation. Fine. And I think that really what's happened here too, which what I was disappointed in, was that the main article I read was the Coppinger one on ESPN, right? I didn't see a Canelo quote. I didn't see a Eddie Reynoso quote. Fair point. I didn't see an Eddie Hearn quote. I saw a Canelo-Plant quote where he's calling Canelo a dog whose bark is bigger than his bite. Well, let me just explain something to Mr. Plant. You a Chihuahua compared to Canelo. Canelo's a Great Dane. He's a Bull Mastiff. And Al Heyman's a Great Dane. Al Heyman's a Bull Mastiff. I don't know the head of Fox Sports, Joe, but he's up there too. But even the way he's been quoted, oh, we offered Canelo 40. Really, Caleb, you got 40 million in the bank? Or is it Fox Sports? So I think really the negotiation, Joe, has got to be between the big dogs, right? But what's interesting to me is that the big dogs are quiet because that's how businessmen usually operate. But the little Chihuahuas, oh, Canelo, yeah, we gave him 40. No, bro, like just chill. Let the big dogs negotiate. And when it comes time for you to speak, it's probably going to be at the press conference. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, so I guess your point is, why is Plant even saying anything? This is above Plant's pay grade because he's not the guy that's putting up the money. So, like, my whole thing, though, is this, because we don't even know how true this is, because you made some great points. We're not getting the other side. We're only getting one side. And sometimes when you only get one side, a lot of times the information can be skewed. It could be leveraged to, you know, obviously to benefit that person who's saying it, right? But hypothetically, if this is all true, people are blaming Plant for this whole situation, but Plant isn't the one that's putting up the money. So my whole thing is this is above and beyond Plant's responsibility and even above and beyond Plant's blame, because he's telling the people who are paying him what the deal is. He's basically, if this is true. So hypothetically, if this was true, like I'm saying, so he's telling PBC and he's telling Fox, you know, if you have to get me a replacement, right, and give me that 40 million. Pretty much what he was telling DAZN. You that $365 million, regardless of who I fight, I'm expecting to get that 33 or whatever 30-something million, regardless of who I fight. And that's what I'm expecting. And they were like, whoa. No, you gotta, you know, we gotta be able to have a say in who you fight here. We gotta pick and choose. And that's why that deal dissolved. So again, if the Fox is putting up the money and PBC is putting up the money, right? It's Fox's money, and they, it's the deal that they did with PBC. So Fox is basically paying PBC, and PBC is paying the fighter, right? So it's Fox's money essentially, right? So you're sitting there telling an entity like Fox, you're dictating to them, okay, 40 million no matter what, pay-per-view no matter what. No, we can't do that. So this has really nothing to do with Plant. This has to do with the people who are paying for the fight, who are financing the fight. So my whole thing is, why is Plant getting blamed here? This has nothing to do with Plant, really, because Plant, he can't make those decisions. Fox makes those decisions. PBC makes those decisions, not Plant. So how is this looked upon as Plant trying to avoid Canelo? Could this be that Fox is going to say, no, we're not going to give you 40 million to fight Joe Blow down the street if for whatever reason something happens to Canelo-Plant? So why is Plant getting blamed for this?
I think if there is a reason Plant's getting blamed for this is because he's saying stuff like Canelo's bark is bigger than his bite, and that he offered him this and he offered him that, or we. Bro, there's no we in this equation. Like you just said, Joe, the money is coming from Fox. The money is being distributed by PBC. That means that Eddie Reynoso and Canelo are in the room. And that likely means that, Al Heyman and, whoever's in charge of Fox, I'll look it up in a moment, whatever the CEO of or vice president or president of Fox Sports is. But those are the guys that should be talking. But yet Plant has decided to talk. And because of the way boxing is now, you get the PBC fans, right? Now, riding with Canelo-Plant, right? And now they blame Canelo. And then you get the Canelo fans blaming Canelo-Plant, when the reality is, like you've said, Joe, the guys who are handling the business are the guys who are handling the business. And unfortunately, Mr. Coppinger, that's who I want to hear quotes from. I understand that Canelo-Plant gave you some good quotes to give you some clicks and drive some traffic to the ESPN website, but I don't have a problem sharing my views because I don't have an ESPN contract. I'm not Akim Barak. I don't have a DAZN contract. I'm not on Fox Sports or on Showtime. Like, I could say whatever I want. And what I see is Canelo being the A side, being the superstar, being the face of boxing, saying essentially, I want guaranteed money if I'm going to go over to your side.
But does it have to be 40 million?
Well, I don't think 40 million is what it would end up being.
Okay, so you just think this, like you said, they're starting high and whatever it falls.
I mean, that's how I negotiate.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? It's like you're buying a house, you put in your offer, you give a little under asking, and you hope to get somewhere between what you put in and what the seller wants to sell it for. I think the big mistake here is that Canelo-Plant decided to give some quotes.
Yeah,
and I personally hope, not even his problem. Canelo-Plant's fine. The problem for me is Mike Coppinger running with this.
Yeah, one side of the story always, never gets the other side. This guy gets one source and he just runs with it. What's the law? What's the rule number one in journalism? You get more than one source.
You got to verify.
He gets one side of a story and he runs with it. And I'm guilty of it sometimes, of just kind of, I'm not guilty of anything really. I'm just speaking hypothetically if this were to be true. We don't know if this is true or not. Canelo could come out and say something entirely different, just like the Billy Joe Saunders situation with the ring. It was said that that Canelo wanted an 18-foot ring, but he was cool with the 22-foot ring all along. So who knows if this is even true? But we're speaking hypothetically, as if it were, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna go off this information. But you're right. That's a phenomenal point that I really never even brought up this morning. Is we still haven't heard Canelo's side of the story.
We don't even know if the 40 million is true. We don't know if 40 million was where they started and they couldn't budge off 40 million. You know, see, the thing is in journalism, Joe, as you know, you've got the reporters reporting, you've got the columnists writing columns, and then you've got the editorial page where the newspaper editorial crew give their opinion on something as representing the editorial of the paper. I mean, if you go out and you give a one-sided story where you're essentially just quoting one person, they didn't even verify what Canelo-Plant said with anybody even remotely closely attached to the PBC. They didn't quote Al Heyman. They didn't quote a Fox Sports executive off the record even. It was literally, here's what Canelo-Plant says, and this is what it is. I mean, that's not good journalism, right? I mean, just confirm it at least, right? But in my perfect world, you get the quote from Canelo-Plant, you'd verify it with somebody with the PBC or with Fox, and then on top of that, you'd get Canelo's side to paint a complete picture and to provide context. All we have here is a fighter who is probably very disappointed that negotiations didn't go the way they wanted.
He's frustrated probably too. That's why he's talking. He's pissed off.
Exactly, frustrated. And who does he, aggravated? And what does he do? He creates a soundbite, a great quote saying that Canelo's bark is bigger than his bite. When we all know that this ain't true. I mean, I don't know what your perspective is on like the levels of difficulty of these three guys, but to me, Plant was always behind Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Billy Joe Saunders is a better fighter than Canelo-Plant, in my opinion.
100%. So it's like, right.
But here's the thing, Maestro. I hate to interrupt you. I'm just going to get this in real quick. Plant has had to listen to everybody say all along that he does not want this fight, and they're insulting him, calling him, saying he's afraid, saying he's ducking. So at some point, maybe this is starting to aggravate him and frustrate him. Now, again, the fight was offered to him a couple times. He did turn it down, right? So people have a right to point that out, right? They have a right to point that out. But people are going hard on him. They're insulting him. They're really attacking his character, his manhood and everything. So this is why probably he's talking right now. Maybe he's getting frustrated with the whole thing. And, it looked like the fight was pretty close. It seemed like everything was in line. But this last request is, I think, a little bit out there, man. It's a little bit too much, in my opinion. I just don't see how that request could be honored, because you don't know who you could replace Canelo-Plant with that's gonna justify giving Canelo Alvarez 40 million. Has DAZN ever given Canelo Alvarez 40 million yet? I don't think so.
No, they haven't, but
right?
they've guaranteed him some money, like they did by coming up with John Ryder as a potential last-minute opponent.
Yeah, and here's another thing. People are like, why is this on Fox pay-per-view? Because maybe from even the PBC side and Al Heyman looking out for Canelo-Plant, they're looking to get Canelo-Plant the most money possible. And they believe if they give Canelo-Plant a decent-sized guarantee, they give Canelo a decent-sized guarantee, and then they put the fight on pay-per-view with the back-end money, the fight seems to me to be more lucrative on Fox pay-per-view. Now, do I want to pay the pay-per-view price from a fan's perspective? Absolutely not. But if I'm looking at this fight objectively, just from a monetary standpoint, looking at it and seeing how it has the most potential to earn the most amount of money, I have to say that it's on Fox, because they're going to be getting back-end money. On DAZN, you're not really going to be able to get back-end money. There's no pay-per-view.
Yeah. So if there's too much background noise, I put on my AC. It's fucking hot.
It's okay. Yeah, it's getting hot out, man.
Yeah. I just want to remind people that you see the number there at the bottom of the screen. If you want to talk about this, call in, man. We'd love to hear from you. Number 718-618-4284. Once again, that's 718-618-4284. And if you happen to be overseas, you can also call in using WhatsApp or Signal. Just make sure that you save that number in so that you can always contact me at Maestro A Boxing or my brother Joe Habib when I'm on live with him. Go ahead, Joe.
Now, did he get $40 million to fight Yildirim? No.
No.
I mean, when he fought Danny Jacobs, he only got. Can we make an argument that Danny Jacobs is a better fighter than Caleb-Plant?
Yeah, I think Daniel Jacobs is a better fighter than Caleb-Plant.
He got 35 to fight Daniel Jacobs.
Yeah, we got a call. Area code 670 is calling from California. Who is this and how you doing? Hello, area code 670. You're live with Joe Habib and Maestro.
Hey, sorry about that. Hello?
It's all good. We can hear you now.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, this is Mike Jerry. I'm from, well, I'm military, but that's why the number is 760, but I'm not in Cali. I really hope this fight goes through. These last demands that Canelo-Plant put out in the public, to me, it makes Canelo Alvarez look bad. And it also helps the case to where people are saying that he is a diva in the previous fights, and that he wants to get one up on his opponents in any way, shape, or fashion. I didn't agree with Kovalev going into the ring right after Yarde, after he fought life and death just to get out of that fight, to go in and get cashed out against Canelo. I didn't agree with the Ryder fight, the Yildirim fight. Billy Joe Sanders, I bet it was a toss-up. I wasn't really high on Billy Joe Sanders. I really didn't think he did a lot in the sport for me to think that he was going to go in there and put on an important performance against Canelo Alvarez to even win. I don't think he's even better than Lara. I just don't think he has the pedigree. But I don't think this fight belongs on DAZN. If Canelo Alvarez is the star that he is, that they say he is, then this Fox pay-per-view will show that. People put him on this high pedestal, and he's supposed to be the leader of the pack. Then I want to see him on pay-per-view. I want to see how he does on pay-per-view. And Caleb-Plant is a good opponent to put on pay-per-view against him. Those demands to say that he can't fight. If Canelo was to get hurt, he can't fight. But if he was to get hurt, then Canelo can have a fight. Like, that's just crazy, man. That's just absolutely crazy. And to me personally, I think Canelo is a star, but I don't think he's a superstar in this sport. I'm not sure if we have any superstars in this sport.
I said the same thing.
Really?
I said the same thing.
Or Floyd Mayweather.
I said the same thing.
I don't see it. Like, he's the leader of the pack. I'll give him that. But I don't think he's a superstar though.
How many people do you need to put in a stadium to be a superstar? Just asking.
Well,
you said that one more time?
I mean, he put 73,000 people in Dallas Cowboy Stadium. I mean, Dallas isn't his hometown. The United States isn't his home country. How many people needed to be in that stadium for him to be a star in the sport of boxing?
Well, we can agree. Texas, Mexico, right next to each other. There's a huge population of Mexicans there. Right?
Well, can I just jump in real quick? And I hate to interrupt the caller, but let me just say this. Let me just say this.
Promotion. We have Billy Joe. I mean, obviously Billy Joe Center didn't have any fans that came through.
Let me just say this though. Let me just jump in real quick. I'm gonna help you out.
In the borderline, straight into Texas.
Let me just jump in real quick. Let me help you out.
I'm not sure if that makes him a superstar, like a global icon or anything like that. I would say superstar and global icon. Are those the same thing, or are those two different?
No,
things?
let me explain. I'm gonna help you make your point. Right? When you got a guy like Mayweather, Pacquiao, Tyson, these guys could fight anybody and do $1 million plus. I don't think Canelo can fight just anybody and do $1 million plus. Floyd Mayweather came back and fought Logan Paul and did $1 million. So I don't think we have that type of superstar in the sport of boxing right now. Maybe you could say Anthony Joshua over in the UK is that guy, But in America, we don't have anybody that could do a million or 800,000 or 700,000 every time out like we used to have when Mayweather, Pacquiao, Tyson, Holyfield, those types of guys that were fighting. We don't have that. We don't have a Sugar Ray Leonard anymore. We don't have that type of star anymore right now
Right.
because people don't promote themselves like they did back in the day. We don't have those personalities that are outgoing and talk. These guys used to call each other out. These guys used to talk trash to each other. These guys were competitive. These guys never said, talk to my promoter. We don't have what we had back in the day. So
Yeah.
that's I think the argument that you could make. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. Caller, if you could call back, because there seems to be something with the line. So if you got another point to make, just please call back and I'll get you right back on.
All right.
All right, thank you. Call right back. Thank you.
Mayweather Berto did not do 1 million pay-per-view buys, but they did 600,000 pay-per-view buys, which is still a good number considering the fight, the type of fight it was. Okay, but for a while there, Mayweather was doing 1 million, and Pacquiao was doing 1 million, and Tyson was doing 1 million just about every time out, and they weren't fighting the greatest opponents all the time either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's a little bit different now for
There's
there's
era now.
factors have led to the fall of pay-per-view and pay-per-view stardom to what it used to be. I was on a panel last week, Joe, where I was debating a woman who was adamant that Tank Davis is not just a star, but a pay-per-view star.
But Maestro,
with 200,000 allegedly sold pay-per-views. But go ahead, Joe.
Tyson came back and did 1 million for an exhibition. Floyd came back and did 1 million for an exhibition. Those are stars. We don't have that right now. The UK has that right now in Joshua. Canelo was there, but he did 900,000 when he fought Cotto. The 2 Golovkin fights, he did over 1 million. But then, when he fought Liam Smith, I think that was a 300,000, 350, whatever. So he's not the star that Mayweather and Pacquiao was. He's not. I don't think he's there yet, in my opinion.
No,
I don't think he's what Tyson used to be either.
I mean, he's not what Tyson was. Tyson was obviously a phenomenon, and he was a heavyweight, and he was from the United States and spoke English. And
then the argument is, okay, well, there wasn't as much streaming back then as there is now. Yeah, but here's another thing. There wasn't as much social media back then as we have right now either. When Tyson was fighting, he didn't have Twitter.
I actually never thought of that point. That's a great point, Joe.
And I asked, when I interviewed Sugar Ray Leonard, I said, how much bigger would you have been if you had social media like we had today? And you know what he said to me? He goes, oh my God, it would be unbelievable the way, if we had social media back then, forget about it. This was a guy who was doing, these guys were doing commercials, bro. Feeling 7 Up, I'm feeling 7 Up. Remember that?
Yeah.
These guys
were,
Hagler was doing right guard commercials on primetime television, ABC. What are these guys doing today? We don't have stars like we had back then, bro. It's a whole different ballgame.
So are you against Canelo walking into the room? Let's just say, pretend there's a room, and you've got the president of Fox Sports there. You got Al Heyman there, and he walks in with Eddie Reynoso, and he's like, look, I'm crossing the street. I need some guarantees, and I need 40 million.
I'm not against him saying that, but what I'm against people saying, Plant's this fight is not going to happen because of Plant. Plant is not the one that is going to be able to give him the 40 million. It's Fox and PBC that's giving him the 40 million. So if Fox says to them, no, we're not going to agree to that. We're not going to guarantee you 40 million to fight Joe Blow down the street. That has nothing to do with Plant. And Plant is being criticized for this. Now, I'm not here to defend Plant. I'm just here to use logic. How can you logically blame Plant when Plant is not the one who is paying the fighter? It's Fox's money that they've given to BBC, just like DAZN has given Eddie Hearn money that he pays fighters with. So you're telling Fox that, okay, yeah, give us this money for this fight. If he fights Anthony Durrell, you got to give him $40 million and you got to put it on pay-per-view. And you're telling Fox they have to do that. If you were Fox, would you agree to that? Yes or no?
No, I would definitely not agree to it. I'd negotiate it. I'd probably come back with, we'll give you
20.
I'd even say 15 guaranteed.
All right.
Like if Canelo-Plant falls through, we got this guy lined up for you for 15 grand and 15 million, and we choose the opponent. And then he'd come back with 25, and then they'd agree on 20. Like, guys, I watch Shark Tank on Friday nights. I know how negotiations work.
Yeah.
You know? Just a reminder, lines are open, 718-618-4284, 718-618-4284. We had a good call, and we're about to have another one calling us from Oklahoma. Area code 405. Who is this? You are on live with Joe Habib and Maestro.
Yeah, what's up, guys? This is AMG. I was on your show too, Maestro. What's up?
Oh, AMG, brother. Good to hear from you again, fam. Let's hear your perspective.
Yeah. So I like the way you guys are going back and forth. My whole thing is like, I just think on Canelo's side, he's starting from a base where he doesn't want to be on pay-per-view. He doesn't want to be on Fox. That is why he's getting his biggest payday, because that's the only way to get his ass over there, right? It's the way I see it.
But I think PBC is advising Plant to have the fight on Fox because they're telling him that's the way he can make the most amount of money. He can make more money by having the fight be on pay-per-view, getting a cut of the back end pay-per-view upside, and that's why they're trying to get the fight on Fox. It's not. This is the thing that baffles my fucking mind, right? And I apologize for hijacking this call, but people are saying this. Then this just baffles my fucking mind, and I have to say this. Oh, well, Canelo is conceding. He's fighting on Fox, so he's giving Plant the advantage because he's fighting on Fox. How the fuck is that going to matter when they're in the ring? Because they're on Fox, that's going to give Plant an advantage? I mean, how is that an advantage? How is that an advantage by fighting on Fox? How is Canelo more comfortable fighting on his own than fighting on Fox? It's going to be the same ring, the same arena. Just people holding the television cameras are going to be different than they would. How the fuck is that an advantage?
I don't think it's an advantage. This is what he prefers to do. But on the flip side is, if Caleb, I think the fight's going to happen, right? Caleb don't get sick, don't get injured, right? I feel like if you're being offered to become the man, if you beat Canelo, just don't fucking get sick. Don't get injured. What you got to do to make the date. And then secondly, let's say he does get injured, right? Everybody's saying, okay, he's going to fight another Yildirim. Like somebody has seen the fucking replacement list. Nobody has seen it, right? I haven't seen it. I don't think anybody else.
But there's no one else to fight. Who's there to fight? Who could replace Plant at this point?
But tell me though, these so out of the pay-per-view that's going to be sold, what's being sold for Canelo? So you want Canelo to what? To get paid $10 million, even though he's generating the pay-per-view guys?
No.
That's what
I want Canelo to make as much money as he can. I want Plant to make as much money as he can. I want all these fighters to be rich.
I agree with that.
I want all these fighters to be rich. Every single one of them.
We're missing the counter. That's the thing. Everybody wants to jump to conclusions that we don't have the counter. What's the fucking counter offer?
Yeah, Maestro made a great point. We have not heard Canelo's side of the story yet, and I'm speaking as if this were true, and we always have to look at what Coppinger says, and they were quotes, but again, we still have not heard the other side, which is unfortunate.
Let's look at it this way, Joe. I'm going to put this in baseball terms, and I'm going to use the Red Sox because that's the closest team to you, right?
Sure.
If JD Martinez or Hunter Renfroe get injured, they get their guaranteed money.
Correct.
Canelo's not even asking for that. Canelo's saying, if you get injured, I get some guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it in the context of not just boxing, but of sports and what elite athletes expect, it's not that crazy. Now, maybe you could say the 40 mil is crazy, But again, that's just the start of a negotiation. The negotiation has to start somewhere.
But can this fight even be in September at this point? It's going to have to be pushed back, no?
Well, I think Canelo trains year round. He could fight anytime. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Is Caleb-Plant ready? I don't know. Like Caleb-Plant backed out of a fight with Canelo previously, citing
needed more time.
lack of preparation time, right?
Yeah.
He hasn't fought since January. How is he not going to be ready?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, he's quoted as saying he's a gym rat, and then he spends all the time in the gym. Caleb-Plant,
that's an excuse. If he's not ready, that's an excuse. He's got to be ready. He was the next up.
Well, look at Anthony Joshua. He was preparing to fight.
He's been watching film on Canelo.
But Anthony Joshua was preparing to fight Tyson Fury, right, in August. So they switched the opponent to Usyk, right? And what did they do? They pushed the fight back to September because Anthony Joshua wanted more time to prepare for a different fighter because he was already training for a different fighter. So he wanted more time. So I in fairness to fighters, if they're training for one guy or just because they're training and they're not training for a specific opponent, one thing staying in shape and conditioning yourself. But then when another thing, preparing for an actual fight and having a strategy for an actual fighter.
I understand that, Joe, but at the same time, sorry to cut you off.
That's fine.
At the same time, Caleb-Plant has known that the Canelo fight's on the horizon.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
At least he beat Truex. Yeah. Who else is he training for?
That's true.
Here's another thing
I'm talking about if there was to be a replacement and then they didn't give them like they just say, okay, we're going to give. Yeah. I'm not even really talking about Caleb-Plant, but say there was a replacement. You know what I mean?
Because the other thing. Sorry, go ahead.
And the thing is the reason why I'm so concerned about this is because COVID is on the rise.
Yeah.
Anyone could get COVID right now. Anyone.
Yeah.
It's on the rise.
Yeah. Well, then he's got to make sure he doesn't act the fool like Tyson Fury and isolate himself and, But what I was going to say, too, is let's not forget that the PBC came up with $20 million guaranteed for Deontay Wilder to knock out Dominic Breazeale in one round on pay-per-view.
They did.
If you're going to pay $20 million for that, the caller just left. Thank you for the caller, bro, for the call. If you're going to be willing to pay Deontay Wilder $20 million to fight Dominic Breazeale, again, if you're Canelo, is it that crazy to pay like some kind of a minimum for me to fight whoever it is that you want me to fight instead of Caleb-Plant?
Yeah. Well, then the counter argument is why doesn't Caleb-Plant just go fight on DAZN? But I still think that Fox has the better offer. And if I was Caleb, let me ask you this, and let's just play. Let's be hypothetical here.
Yeah.
If you were Caleb-Plant right now, right, and you were being told, okay, we're going to give you such and such a guarantee, and then we're going to give you a big chunk of the pay-per-view, not a big chunk, but we're going to give you a piece of the pay-per-view upside, or you can go over and just fight on DAZN and just get a flat rate. What would you do?
I am more of a conservative when it comes to stuff like that, despite my radical left-wing militant politics. And I'm probably going to just take the guaranteed money because I don't know. So I don't know how it's going to do in.
What if your guarantee was the same at Fox as it would be on DAZN, but you're also going to get back-end money on top of that guarantee?
Well, then I'm going to Fox.
Okay.
100.
I'm not saying that's the case, but
if it was the case,
why would Canelo forego DAZN and go over to Fox? If DAZN was paying Canelo more money for this fight than Fox is, don't you think that Canelo would go over to DAZN?
They're not, though.
They're not, right?
With the bigger amount of money.
So that's why everyone's like, why can't we just put this fight on DAZN? Well, I'll tell you the reason why.
The pay-per-view. Because
of money.
Money. Yeah.
You go to the highest bidder.
100%.
Everyone's. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go with the call.
No, just gonna say we got a caller, Joe.
Go ahead.
Area code 760. You are on live with Joe Habib and Maestro A Boxing. How's it going, fam?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? What's happening, B?
Hey, what's going on, brother? How you been? Nice to hear from you. This is a Cali dude, Maestro. It's my man Brian.
There you go. Good to speak to you, Brian.
Hey, good to talk to you. Hey, man, I'm still kind of hopeful, that maybe they'll work it out. You know what I'm saying? Is it all the way official or what?
Well,
Are they saying
it seems like there's this one sticking point that we've been talking about, and hopefully they can get it over the line. But it doesn't look like to me that they could get this done for September. They may have to push this back, bro.
Man. So that leads me to this question. Where would Canelo-Plant go from here? If he don't get this fight right now, where is he going to go from here?
He's going to take a significant step down and make a significantly less amount of money. There's no question about that. Now, Canelo could still make a $35 million payday. I don't think he's going to get a $40 million guarantee to fight Bivol. I don't think he's going to get a $40 million guarantee to fight Beterbiev. But he will get somewhere in the 30s, I would imagine. But I'm thinking, right, Maestro and Brian, how many pay-per-view buys do you think Canelo and Plant will sell?
Maybe like 800.
I said 800 too, right? $880 a pop. That's a and then you throw the live gate in there. This could be a blockbuster, bro. If this fight was on pay-per-view, it could be a blockbuster. It's a no-brainer on pay-per-view.
I'll give Canelo that fan base. It probably could be 8. I'll give it like 8.
Yeah.
But the overall thing is, if they don't take this fight, which direction they're gonna go from here? And then, just like you guys saying that, you said he'll take a significant pay cut. Yeah. One, he might take a little pay cut, but he's still on the upside. So that's where the leverage is right there. Bam. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, in them kind of situations, man, I want to side with Plant, but in this kind of situation, if that's the whole sticking point, you got to just be like, man, well, fuck it then. I just won't get hurt. You know what I'm saying? Do the damn bubble. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Get in the bubble, do your thing, homie, train, whatever you got to do, and go out there, because you might not get the opportunity again. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'll be like, man, these dudes tripping. Because it's like, man, it's like, tomorrow we promise. You know what I'm saying? But that goes along with that injury thing, too, because that is a crazy sticking point. But, you just got to roll the dice, man. You got to roll the dice, homie.
Do you think it's that crazy, Brian, that if Canelo's given up, let's even be conservative here, 20 to 25 million to fight, let's say, a Bivol or Beterbiev on DAZN, and he's going over to the PBC, do you think it's outrageous that he asks for a minimum if just to cover himself if Canelo-Plant gets injured?
Yeah, that whole thing do sound like suspect. That whole shit, you know what I'm saying? I get where you guys coming from on that whole shit, but I don't know, man. I don't even understand how they even put that in there anyway. That don't even make no sense. Even put that as a sticking point. The whole injury shit. I don't know, man. I'm just gonna be hopeful about the whole shit, and just hope that this fight comes through. But if it don't, you really got to think, where these guys gonna go from here. You know what I'm saying? I would take the fight.
Well, I think Canelo goes to XYZ opponent on DAZN for 20 to 25 million, and Canelo-Plant goes to, mandatory defense against, I'd have to look at the rankings for like a 6-figure payday.
Yeah. Man, gotta look at that. I think maybe Canelo-Plant got a shot at beating him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. Sometimes these guys, they don't want to gamble. Sometimes you got to roll the dice, man. Shit. This whole thing going to come down to getting injured. Well, don't get injured. Just do the bubble. Don't get injured. You ain't got to worry about none of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, obviously, I think Canelo has way more options if this fight doesn't happen because he could fight Bivol, he could fight Better Biev.
He upside with the whole. I mean, he could be like whatever. He wants the belt, but he could still be like whatever. And not saying that I agree with it, but he could still go fight somebody else, bring out his fan base, make some money, and then in the meantime, you got Canelo-Plant. He on the rise. He's gonna go backwards. That's why I say these dudes, they take 2 steps back every time, man. Boxing always, they'll take 1 step forward and then 3 steps back.
Well,
here we go again.
Brian, couple things to a couple of things you said. So Canelo-Plant is the IBF 168-pound champion. I'm looking at the rankings now. Number 1, not rated. Number 2, not rated. I never understand it why that happens, but that's an aside. And then the number 3 ranked guy is Evgeny Shevchenko. So, I mean, to me, that sounds like another fig and butts level. Well, that's my point. So, I mean, if that's is the Yevgeny Shevchenko sounds like a Ukrainian. I'd have to look into him though. I don't really know much about the guy, but that sounds like a 6-figure payday for him. So that's number 1. Number 2, I don't know about you, but I can't really remember Canelo being injured and having to like delay a fight or back out of a fight. Like he's a pretty durable and consistent guy when it comes to fighting. In fact, he's fought a lot actually recently, whereas Canelo-Plant has had to back out and delay fights because of his hands. And I know the hands for sure. I don't know if there are other things as well. So again, if you're Canelo and you consider yourself to be the biggest star in the sport of boxing, which I think he is, I think there's a debate with AJ, but I think it's either 1 or 1A with Canelo. If you are giving up 20 to 25 million to not fight on DAZN in September, that I don't really think it's that unreasonable for ask for a guarantee. Not if you get injured, but if your opponent gets injured and needs to back out of the fight. But I mean, that's my opinion on it.
You know, and then the problem is that Plant's got to wait around, right? So we could have another Wilder Fury situation where this fight could get postponed and we got to sit around. And I'm thinking of worst case scenarios here, and this probably may not even happen. But we waited over a year for this Wilder Fury 3 fight to come about, right? So if Canelo gets injured, Plant's got to wait around for him. So how many times is it? How long does he got to wait around for him? How many postponements has to happen? You know what I mean? So I just don't like this stipulation. I've never heard of it. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
That's what they said. They said if Canelo gets injured, Plant got to wait on him.
Yes.
Oh, hell no. I don't agree with that.
I don't understand how people don't have a problem with this thing, man.
Oh, no.
That's crazy.
Okay, but here's the thing, and we need to press the pause button, guys. We've only heard that from the mouth of one guy.
I know. We haven't heard Canelo's side yet, and I hope. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going off on a tangent here. You had to reel me in today.
We have not even heard that from a Fox Sports rep or from a PBC rep.
That's right.
Let alone from Al Heyman. Like, literally, we're just making all of these assumptions off of a quote that's attributed to what I think we can all agree is probably a little frustrated version of Canelo-Plant.
Yes.
Who probably got called. Maybe he was with his kid or was grocery shopping or, just wrapping up a workout. He gets a call from a reporter on the phone and, he's upset about the situation and he's just flying off the cuff.
Could have just slammed the door on a Jehovah's Witness. We don't know what happened.
We don't know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Could have got cut off on the way home driving. We don't know what happened to the guy. Caught him on a bad day, maybe.
So Sports Brotherhood is saying, so we can't take Plant's word. I'm not saying we can't take the word, but I just like things being verified, being confirmed. I mean, that's literally what you're supposed to do in journalism, fam. Like, if somebody says, you know what, Joe Habib doesn't go to work when he's supposed to, and Joe's like, wait a second, aren't you going to interview me before you run with this story? You know what I mean? That like nobody wants things said about them without the opportunity to at least hear the other side. You know what I mean?
I think this is going to get worked out, though. I have a feeling this is going to get worked out.
I hope so, man. That's why I'm still going to be hopeful about the whole shit right now, because it's not like it's officially off. Did they say that it's officially off?
No. Carpenter's always stirring the pot, man. I got to stop listening to Carpenter.
Maybe, hey, man, let's just cross our fingers.
100%, Brian.
Feel me? Let's just be hopeful, man. But if it don't happen and that be the case, because this dude, he wants this man to wait around. That's holding up the belts, holding up the division. Here we go again. That's how boxing will have you. Here we go again. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that shit at all, because it'll be holding up the division. You know what I'm saying? Holding up the belt, tying everything up. We need to keep it moving. So hopefully they'll get it done, man. You know what I'm saying? And we just over here just complaining, and they find something next week or something and start training, and bam, we happy. I'm gonna be hopeful. That's it. I'm gonna be hopeful.
We gotta be hopeful, Brian. Anything else on your mind, fam?
That's it, man. That's it. Hey, thanks for having me on, fellas.
Absolutely.
All right, Brian.
If you want a sub, check out Maestro A Boxing, bro.
All right, for sure. I got you, bro.
Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate that.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Absolutely.
Guys, hit the like button, man. We got like 52 people in there. We only got 30 likes. Come on, let's get those likes up.
Great call. Great call by Brian.
Oh man. It's funny. It's funny, Brian. We I was thinking we were going to get a lot of Canelo supporters calling in and trashing Plant, but we're getting a lot of people seeing the PBC and Fox side of it.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And I was getting kind of both sides of it when I went on live earlier, Joe. Fight Doctor said something that I thought was very interesting, which was that he thinks that Canelo's like one of the most protected fighters or something, is what you said. I thought that was a little harsh, to say the least.
Yeah, he's not a Canelo fan. He's not.
No. We were talking about the Kovalev fight and some other stuff. So, it is what it is. Lines are open, guys. 718-618-4284. Once again, the number is 718-618-4284. And if you happen to be international, well, you're in luck, because you can call in using WhatsApp or Signal. Just make sure you save the number if you're going to use those services. Save it under Maestro A Boxing. This is the number I always use for the phone-ins. And also you can text me about boxing on that number as well. So there you go, Joe. Two sides to every story. Right now, we've heard one side. It's the Canelo-Plant side. And at some point, I'd like to hear more sides of the story so we can have a little bit more context about things, about what's kind of going on here. But I agree with Brian. Until it is officially announced as off, and until other fights are announced instead of this fight, I'm going to hold out hope and hope that we get a undisputed fight, because we started off the year, at least I did, hopeful that we'd get 4 of them, right? Josh Taylor, Ramirez, right? Fury Joshua, the Charlo fight, and this was going to be the other one. So we've already had the Fury Joshua fight go to shit. I'm hoping that this one doesn't go to shit as well.
I agree, man. I mean, that's my only concern, man. I'm just concerned that, because of the whole COVID thing that's going around, I just hope somebody in either team doesn't get COVID. We heard Bob Arum complain about what was going on with the Fury situation, sitting there, yelling about how, it was a mess over there, kind of saying they just let anybody in there. Then who knows what's going on in either guy's training camp? We don't know, right? Sparring partners. So the whole COVID thing makes me nervous, because fights are getting postponed left and right, man. How many fights got postponed this year, right? A lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, because of COVID, I mean, there was the Glassov Joe Smith fight. It started off the year. I think the first one this year was the Ryan Garcia Luke Campbell fight, right?
That got postponed too.
Jamal Herring caught
Jamal Herring got COVID twice.
twice.
So
Povetkin and White was postponed, right?
Povetkin got COVID. So, anything can happen, man. So I know people saying, well, why are you getting all nervous about this? Why are you making such a big deal? Well, because COVID is out there. COVID is out there, guys. And we just how many fights did we just run? Like that? We named like 6 fights right there, right?
100%.
So we got to worry about that, bro.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Hit that like button, everyone. We got over 50 of you guys here live with us. Let's get those numbers up to at least 50. We putting in that work here live with the Beeb on Ringside Reporter. Just hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything. And call in if you'd like to talk about this particular issue or anything else. 718-618-4284. Once again, the number 718-618-4284. As I put the AC back on in here because it's getting hot again.
It's getting hot over here too, man.
Right?
Crazy
Absolutely.
as shit, man.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
So quick swerve away from this topic, Joe, and we can get back to this one in a moment.
Sure.
Vitor Belfort, Oscar de la Hoya. The press conference took place this week. Oscar was actually getting pretty emotional, about his life and about where he is right now. He says he's finally come to peace. It took him a long time to do it. And that, he's taking on this risk because he thinks it's a big challenge to fight someone who throws punches from orthodox angles and who's a lot bigger than him. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think, honestly, that De La Hoya is going to lose this fight. I think he's going to lose this fight. D-Star brought up one thing to me, though. He's saying that Belfort has to weigh 180, and he's usually a 205-pounder. So that's a concern. But De La Hoya, man, he doesn't look good, man. He looks out there. Something is off with this guy. I don't know, man.
I mean, I saw the Mike Tyson interview. Did you see it?
Yeah, he didn't look normal. He looked something would look wrong, man. He looked off.
He was talking about how he hates life. He was talking about his drug use.
Yeah. He's just so unhappy and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna get knocked out, bro.
He said he's miserable. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of picturing a pretty sad outcome.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a guy that's going to take on someone who's been getting kicked and punched in the face, amongst other things, by very big men who, despite what you think about him, has hands, you know what I mean? And was at the height of his own discipline, which itself was a combat sport. De La Hoya has been out of it, and I got to be honest, last time we saw him, he's getting his ass whooped by a guy who's a lot smaller.
Yes.
Now he's taking on a guy that's a lot bigger, and I just don't get it. The guy's worth, 9 figures. He's got a company. I saw you tweet out the other day, I think it was yesterday, that he should probably sell it to Matchroom. Maybe you could tell us your thoughts on that one, Joe.
Yeah, I have no problem with him selling it to Matchroom. I think Eddie would do a lot better with those fighters than he is right now.
Right?
Those guys would get fights.
Yeah, I'm seeing the comments in the chat already with the USSA baby and the USSSRR. I mean, that was embarrassing to say the least.
Yeah, he's a guy.
I mean, it's like a Greek tragedy being played out in front of our very eyes. The only thing missing is like the opera music.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's crazy.
I just don't get it. And if I'm DAZN, I mean, if I'm Eddie, I don't know if I buy the whole company. I don't know how much name value Golden Boy Promotions has, but I definitely try to buy out the fighters.
I'm sure a lot of those guys will end up leaving. I don't know how much longer Ryan Garcia will stay there. Virgil Ortiz, he's bound to leave eventually. I just don't see these guys being able to deal with Oscar for an extended period of time. I think everyone leaves him eventually, right?
Yeah, I agree. So I mean, at the end of the day, I got to ask myself, why would anybody sign with this dude, knowing what they know about him and seeing what they've seen him do or not do the past few years with star potential fighters? I mean, Virgil Ortiz, that's a blue chip prospect, bro.
That is.
You know, Ryan Garcia, you're talking about a blockbuster potential fighter like Mr. Pay-Per-View.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? You were asking me how much I think that the Canelo fight does. People are going to think I'm crazy, but I think Tank versus Ryan does 1 million pay-per-view buys.
He could. I wouldn't put it past him.
You know, and
Definitely could do that.
And this is De La Hoya. So look, it is what it is. I thought that the Zurdo Ramirez signing was kind of odd, to be honest, especially considering that Zurdo's in debt and having to pay back Top Rank every fight. I mean, I would have
Wow. That sucks.
I would have just fought out my contract.
Yeah, I don't know why he left.
You know what I mean? So
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So listen, I think just to backtrack to our initial topic, I think, look, if I'm in any situation and, you know, people stick a camera in front of Joe and Joe has something to say about Maestro. Oh, Maestro's always late for work. You know, he takes 3-hour lunch breaks. Well, could you ask Maestro about it? Could you maybe see what my opinion about the whole situation is? For whatever reason, Coppinger doesn't do that, Joe. Maybe
he's got Eddie's number too. He's got Eddie's number, so I don't know why you just can't pick up the phone and call Eddie.
Right? Just get a different perspective, and then you can at least write a balanced article. I think that a lot of people's visceral and initial reaction to this story was understandable. I mean, you're reading something on ESPN.com. You're reading an authoritative source, and, you know, I'm putting the air quotes there. Personally, I expect more from that outlet. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know?
It is what it is.
I expect more. So, look, any callers? I think we can wrap up soon, right, Joe?
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
I don't know. If there are any callers, you guys got like a 10, 20 seconds to call in, get your last thoughts heard. What I'd like all of you to do is 2 things. One, check out Maestro A Boxing. That's my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 before I go back to work once the school year starts. I'm inching closer to that goal day by day. And I'd like you to also check out Women Crushing It Wednesdays with our sisters in the ring with Christine and Tracy Boxing Girl. They should be going live, if not have already started. So
yeah, they probably just started.
Yeah, definitely check out Maestro A Boxing. I'm going to plug the link in for all of you. Just give it a click, please. Make sure you sub to my channel. And if you like what I got, make sure you hit that like button. Joe?
Shout out to HCP. Make sure you subscribe to Maestro. Make sure you subscribe to D-Style Boxing. Make sure you subscribe to G Funky. Make sure you subscribe to In the Ring with Christine. Make sure you subscribe to Calix Boxing. Make sure you subscribe to The Boxing Voice. Subscribe to everybody, man. Boxing is alive and well here on YouTube, man, and we're trying to make a resurgence here, man. The old YouTube boxing community is trying to make a comeback.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do too, again, check out my channel, click that link. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is to jump on over to Women Crushing It Wednesdays. We've In the Ring with Christine is already up there with Tracy Boxing Girl, and they're doing their thing. They do a lot of great work on that channel. So please check it out. I'm going to drop the link for all of you over there. And thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on today, Joe.
Oh, thanks for coming by, man. You always make the show great. And always love to hear your takes. And yeah, I had a good time, man. Thank you so much. And we'll see you soon. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Take care, everyone.